Good day everyone, and I hope you're safe and healthy. For you to be updated with the latest lecture videos of our course, kindly click the subscribe button. For this week's lesson, we're going to discuss about communication and globalization, evaluating messages reflecting different cultures, intercultural communication, varieties of English, and registers of English. But before we proceed, I have a profound question, and that is, how can we preserve our social and cultural identities even despite the fact that we belong to a multilingual and multicultural environment? We'll find the answers as we go on. So come and let's learn. The following are the objectives of this lesson. 1. Discuss the impact of globalization, especially to communication. 2. Identify the elements and cultural facets found in multimodal texts. 3. Adopt cultural and intercultural awareness and sensitivity in the communication of ideas. 4. Distinguish the different varieties of English. And 5. Apply appropriate gestures of English in various multicultural contexts. Let's begin with communication and globalization. And the question is, what is globalization? Let's take a look at the videos.
Globalization resembles the association between individuals around the planet.
It is an engagement and incorporation mechanism between individuals, corporations, and governments worldwide.
Globalization is the act of influence and interdependence among different governments, businesses, cultures, and countries around the world.
It refers to the effective connectivity of other nations around the world with regards to their businesses.
Globalization paved its way in removing cultural barriers, making it easier to connect online.
A complex approach of connectivity across the globe.
It is the process where people and products move easily across borders.
Globalization is basically the trading of foreign goods.
It is the exchange among people of different nations that are focused on trade and information technology that has effects on its economic growth, culture, and society.
It is the evidence of humanity's further advancement in terms of interconnectedness and interdependence between nations.
It is the interaction and integration of people worldwide.
Globalization is our planet's initiative to help one another, which also promotes international camaraderie.
It is the expansion of communication, government, and business in a worldwide scale.
It is a process of exchanging goods, services, and even technology all over the planet.
It is the association of various components of the world integrating goods and people among different countries.
Globalization is a process of worldwide interaction and integration.
Cultural and economical connected interaction among the nations around the world.
Growing interdependence of the world's economies, culture, and population brought by cross-border trades in goods and services.
Globalization is the linking of human activities around the world, or simply the term going global.
It means widening the availability of products and services around the world.
Globalization portrays the trade of ideas, values, and artistic expressions among cultures of nations.
Globalization promotes necessities of individuals around the world.
It is prepared for the integration of worldwide economies through the elimination of barriers.
Globalization is a connection with people internationally as well as introducing one's culture and local brands worldwide.
Integration of different aspects that intertwines the people around the world.
Globalization is an interaction of people to exchange information.
Globalization refers to the worldwide economic and business collaboration. It began during the 18th century, and up to now, it has advanced our transportation and communication. Let's proceed to the second question, and that is, what makes globalization a relevant issue around the world? Let's take a look.
It became a relative issue because of how it might influence nations and individuals.
Because of its collaborations and shared resources as well as the technological advances.
Since globalization relates to the world, any result of it will affect the entire world.
Globalization makes our life easier, better, and wealthier. If it causes a problem, that would be a big trouble.
The advancement of technology could also mean an increasing environmental degradation.
Because it links to us humans in everyday life and the future.
Because it interconnects people and businesses around the world.
Some countries are not well equipped to keep up with every other country.
It is relevant as it tackles poverty alleviation, employment and income inequality, population growth, and economic development.
It's relevant because people of all races, cultures, and religions can either be positively or negatively affected by globalization.
It helps build relation and access resources from other countries.
It is relevant since it brings people from different parts of the world together so as to achieve a mutual goal.
Because it affects micro and macro sectors all over the world.
It helps promote connection and interaction between different countries and regions all over the globe.
Globalization remains a relevant issue because it is constant and timeless,
as it defies political, cultural, and economic relationships across the globe.
Because it gives us both benefits and challenges from and to the world.
Combining efforts and resources allows for more creativity and innovation to solve problems around the world.
Loss of local jobs and one's cultural identity.
It affects a lot of sectors, either positively or negatively.
It has created impacts on developing countries, catalyzed job opportunities to improve productivity and living standard.
It is the money and their qualities that makes the globalization a relevant issue.
From vehicles to other manufacturing factories that greatly contribute to global warming due to its excessive emission of carbon dioxide.
Globalization is a relevant issue because it plays a big role in a country's political, cultural, and economic growth.
It contains issues and aspects which are highly important to one's nation.
Globalization can be a good thing but also has its negative impact in interaction.
Because of globalization, everything is affected. It could be positive and negative. Let's proceed to the third question, and that is, how does globalization affect communication? Let's take a look.
Globalization eliminates the barrier of communication between countries and culture.
Communication in globalizations is the soul of human beings. Without it, the ideas will not turn into reality.
Globalization helps communication grow in which it removes cultural barriers and connects people from different countries.
Facts through building relationship, eliminates cultural boundaries, and creates brighter future through their businesses.
Globalization paved its way in removing cultural barriers, making it easier to connect online.
By different beliefs, cultures, perspectives, and languages across the globe.
Communication is directly affected by making things convenient and easier.
Without globalization, international communication would surely minimize.
It impacts the world by spreading language and culture through communication, interaction, and influences of other culture.
It impacts the progression of communication by making the modes more accessible and inclusive.
It allows language to spread across countries.
Globalization has pushed communication decades in the future as people now see this need rather than a convenience.
It made communication easier with the advancement of technology.
Communication is important in globalization so that both sides will come into an agreement.
Globalization affects communication by making it significant and relevant in every process.
It makes people and companies cautious and flexible in engaging global communication.
It helps us break barriers of culture, making the world more equitable to live.
Allowing languages and their culture to spread and dominate on a global scale.
To remove the challenge of having different language and other communication barriers.
It makes communication across countries much easier and faster.
Globalization increases demand for communication to create a competitive advantage in the global market.
It affects the physical, emotional, and language communication barrier by the help of improved technologies.
Globalization is expanding our circle. Through the science and technological advancement, we can now connect to many people across the globe.
It will be easier to reach people from other countries through global communication such as advertisements and social media posts.
Diverse types of dialects, distance, and culture can affect globalization.
It affects communication in a way that it makes things happen.
Because of globalization, it has changed our global mindset. And because we need to communicate to people across cultures, we need to make use of a lingua franca, and that is English. English is used across different sectors such as education, business, trade and industry, and others. Let's proceed to the fourth question, and that is, aside from communication, what other areas are affected by globalization? Let's take a look.
Will be poor countries. The economy will not be balanced, the poor will remain poor, and the rich will be richer.
It is the economic, cultural, and political globalization.
Culture is also affected by globalization. People tend to appreciate other cultures' beliefs. Best example are young Filipinos influenced by K-pop.
also affects each country in a good way to the economy because through it, the exchange of goods takes easier.
Increased economic activities impacted the environment badly, leading to a greater emission of pollutants.
Environment. As technology advances, environment worsens.
Business, because as globalization progresses, business becomes more easy and reliable.
It affects the environment since there will be a larger demand, but with a finite resource to back it up.
It affects not only our political systems but also economic, geographic, and our culture because of our interconnected societies.
It affects a nation's economic, culture, politics, and environmental resources because all of these aspects are interrelated.
It affects the economic, cultural, and political aspects of the country.
Globalization and business go hand in hand, but more than this, it has affected the way people live and think.
Economy. Its effects includes foreign investments, low-cost products, and technological innovation.
It also affects the connection between two different regions, and it helps build trust for future plans and trading.
Politics is another thing that is affected by globalization because it has impacts that affect politics, like the increasing of power and liberty of nations.
Funding. Because of globalization, international trade became one of the main fund source of most countries.
Could hugely affect the economical trade among the countries.
Makes it easier to access foreign culture, food, music, movies, and arts.
Created opportunities for those developing countries.
The more industries are established, the greater the pollution is generated.
Globalization is often used in economic context, but also affects and is affected by politics and culture.
It affects the different cultures to understand their different languages and mannerism by the help of interpreters.
Globalization has led to an increase of human activities such as migration and traveling, which lead to cultural diversity.
Areas influenced by globalization are the cultures and economy because it promotes cultural identity and it makes marketing more efficient.
Environmental, cultural, political, and many more, because these are the four elements of
Without globalization, the world won't improve and won't produce the needs of the people.
Because of globalization, it has impacted economic growth, local industries, social injustice, and culture. Let's begin with economic growth. Because of globalization, multinational companies expand their business around the world. At the same time, many countries can now import and export products. Because of the domination of multinational companies, local industries are left behind. And with that, social injustice begins because the rich becomes richer and the poor becomes poorer. At the same time, globalization affects culture because of our various exposures. For instance, we are dominated by K-pop, anime, and Western film, music, and fashion. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is evaluating messages reflecting different cultures. And the question is, what makes someone handsome or beautiful? Let's take a look.
This depends on how a person defines beauty, because everyone is unique.
For me, it is the personality, mind, and character, because beauty comes from within.
For me, being handsome and beautiful comes from within. Someone who is good at heart, intelligent, and have a positive vision towards life.
For me, being kind would make someone beautiful.
I am overly attracted by someone who loves God as much as I do. Looks may fade, but having a pure heart lasts.
When they have plan or goals about the future and fun to be with.
Attitude, because for me, physical appearance doesn't matter. It is the attitude.
It could be the proportionality of the face or the nature of the person.
Self-confidence is beauty. Knowing who you are and what you want means that you are aware of your self-worth.
A person is attractive if he or she accepts and embraces her individuality without being hypocritical of others.
Having a pleasant personality and good manners can make someone attractive.
Beauty is best measured by our compassion towards other people, for our skin will wither, but our true nature will not.
Then he or she has a proper hygiene and have a great personality.
Some people may have a facial standard, but for me, inner beauty is what matters the most.
In societal standards, a person's face is what makes them beautiful or handsome, but for me, it's the personality.
Confidence and not fishing for anyone else's validation that you are beautiful.
A symmetrical face, for example, makes a person attractive.
Beauty is the opposite of perfection. It's about confidence, intelligence, and character.
If they are with dignity and kindness.
When certain conventional factors are satisfied in relation to one's culture.
A beautiful person is someone who radiates kindness and confidence.
Influence. or idolizing good-looking celebrities.
Beautiful and handsome people are the ones that attract someone and stands out.
Flaws and imperfections can make someone handsome or beautiful.
It depends who you ask and what their beauty standard and preferences are.
A person can be beautiful if her soul is pure.
Always remember that beauty is relative because beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, what makes our castle of beauty relative? Let's take a look.
Beauty is a relative word. The thing that is not relative is how we define beauty.
It is the aesthetic relativism of the ideas that views the beauty relative.
Our concept and standard of beauty depends on what culture we are in. We cannot say something or someone is not beautiful because we have different concepts about beauty.
Find certain ratios appealing. Generally, it is good figure and attractive features that we feel too beautiful.
Society puts definition to beauty. It is just a social construct. We are all equally beautiful.
Because of different cultures, beliefs, races, and perspective, all kinds of beauty are relative.
The concept of beauty is relative for us to have a basis to look up to.
There are ideas in which we all agree upon as beauty. However, your idea of beauty is something that attracts you only.
Beauty is relative as it encompasses concepts of culture, history, and subjective notions on how we should really look like.
It is relative such that we all have beauty standards that evolves and adapts through the trends of time.
Our differences and unique perspective makes it relative.
A person is entitled to one's opinions and can be judged with several factors, but that depends on the beholder.
It is relative because it is dependent to the standards or community already established.
It is relative in choosing the best person to spend the rest of your life with.
The concept of beauty is subjective, and that's what makes it relative.
We are uniquely created with our own preferences, therefore we pick what is attractive for us.
The definition of beauty is different from around the world, therefore we define beauty as something that is attractive to us.
We have a different view and perspective of what beauty is.
Beauty is perceived differently by various cultures and people.
What other people think is ugly might look beautiful to us because we define beauty in our own perspective and subjective standards.
It's a natural concept that features in our eyes a pleasant characteristic, especially when it's very attractive.
Perspective of people about being handsome or beautiful is like an art. Some may appreciate you as a masterpiece and some may not.
The concept of beauty is relative because the things that I find beautiful may be considered ugly to other people.
It depends who you ask and what their beauty standard and preferences are.
Beauty lies within us, but most of the people define beauty as physical attributes.
Always remember that our viewpoint of the world is embedded in our culture. And these are the elements that we have to consider in analyzing multi-modal text. If you say multi-modal text, these refer to various texts such as your normal text, magazines, newspapers, including videos, music, and comics. And these are the elements that you have to consider. One is the topic. Second is purpose, and that refers to the goal of the text. Next, channel, what is the medium that is used. Next is target audience, and that refers to the persons addressed by the text. If there is no specific person or a group of individuals addressed by this particular text, then the answer is general public. It's also possible that texts are addressed to specific groups of individuals. Next is manner of presentation, and this refers to how the message is being presented. Next is beginning. That refers to how does the text begin. Next, ending. That refers to how does the text end. Next, the message. The message refers to the different thoughts provided by the author in the text. Tone, that refers to the emotional appeal towards the readers or audience. And culture, and that refers to the cultural practices, behaviors, ideologies presented in the text. Let's proceed to the next topic, and that is intercultural communication. And the question is, if given a chance to travel or work abroad, where will you go and why? Let's take a look.
I want to go to America because I want to visit every NBA city.
I'll choose Switzerland because of its work opportunities and its scenery.
If I will be given a chance to work abroad, I will go to Korea. Korea is my dream destination under the influence of Korean dramas. Also, I can find work opportunities there. One is teaching English. This is the perks of majoring English.
Switzerland because they are one of the countries who offers highest salary for engineers.
As a believer, it is my childhood dream to go to Israel. I want to see where Jesus lived his life to save us.
New Zealand because they are one of the world's most peaceful and less corrupt country.
Working abroad, specifically Japan, because earning money while in a different country is a must for poor people like me.
I'd probably go to Japan. I'd love to work there and to spend my whole life there.
Most definitely Hawaii. It offers the right amount of tranquility, diversity, attraction, and change that I need in my life.
I would like to pursue a life in Sweden because apart from its continuous economic progression, they remain sustainable.
Japan, to experience tranquility is a dream come true.
Japan, since I like the work ethics of the people there as well as their exquisite manner and discipline.
The place doesn't matter as long as they have a good work ethic and impressive monetary offering.
I would choose South Korea. It is because it is the most appealing to me and they have the best food.
I think I will go to Canada because there are numerous opportunities in Canada's fast-growing economy.
The Empire State, because I want to experience the concrete jungle of New York City.
Canada because of the healthcare system which we lack.
Middle East is one of the best countries to work as an ESL teacher for its high salary and extensive benefits.
New Zealand, a place full of opportunities and peace.
Japan, because it has always been my dream since I was little.
I'd love to go to Japan. Not only will I apply my foreign language learnings, but also I will get the chance to stay in this amazing country.
I would like to travel or work in Canada. There's a lot of opportunities and I am a fan of this sports, hockey.
I would love to travel to Iceland because I want to experience the mesmerizing beauty of Iceland.
If given a chance to work abroad, I will go to United Kingdom since it is one of the highest paying countries for veterinarians.
Singapore because of its systematic governance and opportunity-rich environment.
I would go to New Zealand because it is where my dream work is.
Personally, I'd like to go to Australia, New Zealand, and Japan because I would like to experience their food, culture, and sceneries. And of course, I want to experience food. Let's proceed to what should you do first before going abroad. Let's take a look.
Finish a degree, have a good resume, so I can have a wonderful job abroad.
You must first get a passport before you start collecting colorful stamps all over the world.
For me, of course, it is learning about their culture and language. I have to learn how to deal with the people in Korea, how to speak fluently with their language, and how to make friends with them.
Finish my studies and pass the licensure exam for the preparation of another journey that I would take.
Earn enough money. I should be able to enjoy my first ever country trip without worrying financially.
Plan ahead and gather important information to respect and obey each other's culture differences.
Learn their language because you cannot make a whole country adjust and learn your language.
I would prepare myself from culture shock since I am going to a whole new country.
Know more about their culture. In that way, it increases engagement, excitement, and it also avoids further culture shocks.
I will first do my research and instill it in my mind so I can condition myself to better adjust to a new country.
Secure our valid IDs, passport, and visa to avoid complications.
I would first develop a high-income skills degree in that matter. That way I will find a job no matter where I go.
Other than prepare the documents needed, it is important to do research on the country and your workplace.
I would take my time to learn the language and their culture so that I won't be able to offend anyone.
Work and save money to prepare myself when going abroad.
Get a passport.
Prepare all the necessities, learn more about the place, and show respect.
Make sure to carry all the necessities and be mentally and physically prepared.
Explore, assess, and know their own culture.
Do research on the country's culture and language.
First is learn the foreign language and study their way of living.
Fix my passports and important papers.
I should learn about my destination, know how they communicate and their culture, so that my time spent abroad would be enjoying and exploring.
Before going abroad, I should work to earn money and gain work experience so it will be easier to apply for a job in other countries.
Research in the bylaws and culture of the country and seek opportunity.
I will first build a concrete plan and study the place I'm going.
I've been to many countries, and the first thing that I usually do is research. You need to research their culture and the do's and don'ts so that you won't be imprisoned or fined there. Aside from that, you have to prepare money. Money for your passport and visa, ticket, hotel accommodation, food, allowance, and your pasalubong. Because you can go back to the Philippines without your pasalubong. Next is, how should you communicate with people with diverse cultures? Let's take a look.
The best way is to talk calm, with respect, and just keep it simple.
Maintain respect and courtesy and use simple words so that they could feel more comfortable.
Diverse cultures and different languages. Well, we have our universal language, which is English, in order to be able to communicate with different languages. But also we have to show respect with other cultures and maintain a careful act.
Simply observe etiquette, consider the person you were talking to, and express yourself calmly.
Create a comfortable environment where both of us can speak freely with respect with one another's culture.
Think before you speak with respect and smile.
By using simple words accompanied with actions and a little bit of patience. To be as respectful and as understanding when communicating.
Communication should be based on culture, ethnicity, race, and gender in order to overcome diversity through communication.
One should be empathetic and diplomatic to avoid insensitive remarks and offensive behaviors during a conversation.
Keep in mind the important etiquettes.
Proper etiquette is key, as well as not being aggressive, as kindness will be recognized no matter where you are in the world.
We communicate with respect to their boundaries and their practices.
I must apply what I've learned from studying their culture.
I should maintain etiquette and observe proper decorum to avoid any bad circumstances.
You can never go wrong on being cultural sensitive and being polite.
Maintain proper etiquette and be more understandable as much as you can.
Keep it simple, speak slowly, and maintain etiquette.
Maintain communication, etiquette, and be discreet at all times.
I will practice cultural sensitivity and do not imply any stereotypes associated with them.
Courtesy and respect help establish a good foundation for effective communication with people of diverse cultures.
Be observant. Just be yourself and know their cultures, as well as be respectful.
I should be responsible in any way possible and expect differences since we are all different living this vast entity.
One should be open-minded, respectful, and mindful with nonverbal communication.
By using common understandable language such as English and at the same time observe culture sensitivity.
I will communicate by respecting their beliefs and their culture.
Always remember that we have to respect and understand the cultures of others. Further, do not impose your culture. I'm going to show you the different nonverbal communications across the world. Let's begin with body positions and movements. In the US, they sit in one place for some time. It's different in Indonesia and Zimbabwe because they squat. This is also true among the Koreans. Another one is the two-finger sign. In the US, this means peace, but in Australia, this is vulgar because this refers to a female genital. Next is counting. In the US, they begin counting with their forefinger like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the UK, they begin counting with their thumb 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In the Philippines, it's different because we begin counting using our pinky finger like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fascinating, isn't it? Another one is eye contact. In North America, eye contact is good. It's also true to us Filipinos because that's a sign that we are interested in the conversation. However, it's different in Indonesia because looking directly at people is considered disrespectful. It's also true among the Muslims. Another one here is handshakes. Why? Because in America, their handshakes are firm. In Asian countries like the Philippines, handshakes are light. Handshakes also differ according to age because the older ones would have firmer handshakes. However, the younger ones have lighter handshakes. Another one is time. In the US, their concept of time is monochromatic, meaning it's uniform. If it's 7 a.m., it's 7 a.m. If it's 7:15, it's 7:15. If it's 7:30, it's 7:30. It's different in the Middle East and Asia, like us in the Philippines. Time is polychronic. If say polychronic, it's varied. For example, let's meet at 7 a.m. It could be 7, 7:15, 7:30, 7:45, 8, and so on. So it's polychronic. At the same time, time here is more relaxed. Another one here is space. In North America, you need to provide 2 feet. However, in Saudi Arabia and South America, it's different because they stand close to each other. It's also true among us Filipinos. For example, falling in line, we are very close with each other and there are even inserts, right? Another one here is odor. In the US, they neutralize their odor. It's also true to us Filipinos. However, there are some Asian countries that show odor to be experienced by others, just like the Indians. Another thing is frankness. In North America, they are relatively frank. In Germany and Israel, they are more frank. However, in Asia, like us in the Philippines, we are more reticent or implicit. Why? Because we value relationship and we don't want to hurt the feelings of others. Another thing is social hierarchy. In the US, they follow the first name basis. In the UK, they follow the family name basis. In the Philippines, it's first name basis, and sometimes we give alias, right? And always remember, in the Philippines, we value title and occupation. For example, if somebody is a doctor, he or she wants to be called doctor. And if that person is an engineer, that person would like to be called as engineer, and so on. Let's proceed to workplace values. In the US, they follow hard work above pleasure. And with that, success will follow. But in the Philippines, it's different because we follow pleasure first. At the same time, there are different toxic Filipino cultures in the workplace, such as the Padrino system or the Palakas system. We also have this procrastination or mamayana, and then ningas kugun, meaning you're only good in the beginning, but in sustaining it, meh. Next, expressions of emotions. In the US and the UK, PDA is considered normal and acceptable, but in the Philippines, PDA is considered crude and offensive. Let's proceed to the next question, and that is, how would you be able to preserve your Filipino culture without being offensive to other cultures? Let's take a look.
We just need to respect other cultures. Preserving my culture doesn't mean I need to fight with other cultures.
Share each other's culture and point out the importance of preserving the art of culture.
I should learn what makes them offended I have in my culture so I can avoid doing it, and learn what is in my culture that don't seem offensive to them so I can still show my own culture.
Practice our values and culture. For the others not to be offended, we should learn their culture too, for the respect will still remain.
Being hospitable and knowing where to draw a line is one way in preserving and respecting each other culture.
Teach the younger generations about our culture and how to respect other cultures as well.
By being open-minded and sensitive, because most people think their language is more relevant than others. Embrace my culture and to not force my culture onto others.
International influences should be kept to a minimum, as well as constantly expressing and relating our situations with our cultures.
Constantly educating myself about the different cultural integration and adapting to maintain a safe, neutral ground for all people.
Sensitive. Show respect and hospitality towards others.
I can preserve it through our food and through our clothes, but if they still find it offensive, then they can just go to another home.
By showing how our culture is without forgetting that their culture is different than ours.
I'd show my respect and prevent any action or language that may be offensive to other people.
I would be doing my usual thing whilst being observant to the people with different cultures and be sensitive enough to be unoffensive.
Being hospitable, that's one Filipino trait that definitely would not offend anyone.
You can show support to your country without insulting the others.
Develop cultural self-awareness. Understanding your own culture is the first step to understand others' beliefs and values.
When you give respect to other cultures, they will do the same.
To always show courtesy and respect, as it is also a Filipino norm.
Learn to practice self-awareness in every situation that you're in and respect other people's culture the same way you respect yours.
Know their cultures so that we will not do what is offensive to them.
I should practice my culture and focus on my biases and beliefs so that I can be respectful towards other cultures.
One should avoid committing a cultural faux pas when promoting and spreading awareness about Filipino culture to other countries.
Respect if you want respect, so respecting other culture will gain you the same thing.
I will not force anyone to practice my culture, but I will share how great the Filipino culture is.
At this juncture, I'm going to feature some of my friends who previously and currently study and work abroad. And I have one question for them, and that is, given the diverse languages and cultures around the world, how did you adapt to your previous or present multilingual and multicultural environment? Let's take a look.
I really like learning new things, and I like to learn from new cultures. Often that is my default mindset. And so I think that really helps me to adjust pretty quickly and well to new environment.
Each individual has a unique accent in a multilingual community. As long as you embrace your identity by acknowledging your accent as you speak, you can have meaningful and engaging conversation with anyone.
Adaptation in a multicultural environment requires blending without losing your identity. Speak out your mind, introduce your culture, and attend social activities.
So I've been living in Hawaii for almost 8 years now, and one of the ways through which I adapted to this very diverse and multicultural environment is by making sure that I don't fall into the trap of cultural stereotypes, because it's so easy to associate certain behaviors and identities to stereotypes that we perceive through the media but may not actually be true. And that's why it's very important to be open to conversations about certain behaviors instead of making assumptions based on what we see or how the media or the discourses around certain behaviors and identities are constructed.
Hi Rene, thank you very much for inviting me. I certainly hope that your students will learn something from this sharing. I have always been naturally curious about people, communities, their ways, their belief systems. And because of that curiosity, I always want to learn more about them and other communities. And so I read a lot of books. I listen to various presentations coming from people from all walks of life. And I also watch movies. Aside from all of these, I believe that having a mind that is accepting of different people's ideas, a heart that is appreciative of cultural diversity, and a spirit that is sensitive and empathetic about other people's desires and needs, then basically you will be able to adjust well to different cultural environments. Well, all these have definitely helped me adjust well during my stay at the University of Michigan. Just to tell you frankly, I only felt all the blues and homesickness during the first 2 weeks of my stay there. After that, I really do not wish to leave Michigan anymore. The more I get to know other people, the more I'm drawn towards understanding differences, the more I am able to distinguish my own identity. It feels really good discovering your strengths as an individual, that eventually you know how to fit well with other people's personalities, for instance, or that you get to appreciate them, and of course, learn about respect and mutual understanding. So yes, there you have it, Rene. I hope that your students are able to at least learn a thing or two from that experience. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, so by being adventurous and don't be afraid to try new things. That's it.
So I'll really try hard to engage myself in the community and use the language as often as possible on a day-to-day basis, and also try to actively learn how people here communicate to each other.
We should understand that the people we interact with are also adapting to this type of environment. Thus, having respect and an open mind is really essential.
So the things I did when I had my internship was I did some research which regards to their culture, language, and lifestyle in order for me to avoid culture shock and to have a prior knowledge in the area.
So it's an advantage that Thailand and Philippines is quite similar when it comes to culture. One apparent example is how Thai people value respect, which we Filipinos are particular with. I would say that the multilingual situation is the real challenge here. Good thing I have people around who would help when it comes to communicating with the natives. Google Translate is also a great help when I have no one around with me. When it comes to conversing, I have learned to adjust to their level of speaking in English, which some call broken English. I have also learned to be patient when listening to a native talking, trying my best to understand what they want to tell.
สวัสดีค่ะผมชื่อ Gary Bertudes นะคะผมอายุ25นะคะ Or should I say my name is Gary Bertudes and I am 25 years old. I am currently working and currently living here in Thailand. So as a graduate of Bachelor of Arts and History at Central Mindanao University. How did I adapt to a multilingual or to a multicultural environment? Is simple. By first learning their history, tradition, culture, and language. Learning how the way they live and how the way they behave. Most importantly, guys, is that you need to start learning their language and start embracing their culture. And that way, you will be able to adapt easily with those things for sure. Thank you. Swadika. Kapun ka.
Hello everyone, this is Mara Smith. Let me just fix that. Alright. So I am a Filipino Black American and I have been working as a professional model internationally for the past 4 years. I'm here to answer the question on what changes or how did I adapt to the different culture and languages that I encounter living and working abroad. So the first thing that I would want to say is that I grew up in the Philippines. I was raised there, so technically my first language was English, but I then switched off all of that and just spoke Bisaya, Tagalog, Chavacano, so I am more comfortable in speaking Filipino dialects. We all have a basic grasp of English because, in the Philippines it's easy, we all understand it, we all speak it, but it's different. So the first thing that I had to change or adapt to is to speak English in a more conversational manner. Not fluent, not using big words, but just be able to be comfortable in speaking it 24/7 because I live and I interact with people from different parts of the world, and so English is the only language that could really connect me with everyone. So I had no choice but to practice it and speak it every day of my life. That's the first thing that I had to learn. And it's quite a challenge at first because sometimes I would be grasping for words and I would just say it in Filipino, but throughout the years I think I have gotten way better. The second thing is not speaking English fluently, and when I say this, I mean I don't really use big words, I don't use complicated words, because the countries that I travel to, except for the UK when I visited and worked in London, most of the countries that I visit, like Italy and France and the one where I'm at right now, Indonesia, English isn't their primary language. Most of the people don't speak English, so I have to actually tone it down and simplify the way I speak, and sometimes I would even adapt my tone to how they speak it. And aside from that, I have to learn the basic phrases or words that will help me get by. So I have to learn basic phrases, greetings, and the words that I need when I'm working, the relevant words. So like when I'm at a photo shoot, I need to know how they say shoes, bag, pants, shirt in Italian, and the different colors, so that when they instruct me, I understand and then I can do what they tell me to do. So it doesn't really require me to learn their language fully, but just have bits and pieces, know which one is which. So actually that's a really fun part of it, but it's hard when you are visiting local places or when you're not really in the city. Then that's when you really need to have a deeper understanding of their language, and so that's one thing that I had to learn and adapt to. And the last one I would say is just encountering different cultures. So sometimes it's not always good because as much as I am liberated and I am half American and I try to be woke, I still hold a lot of Filipino values and beliefs dear to me because that's how I've been raised. My mom is very conservative, So sometimes I would encounter people and their beliefs or their way of thinking is just totally opposite to what mine is. So I guess the only thing that I had to adapt, and I think everyone else should, is to just be very accepting and respectful of different cultures, because it's actually really amazing. It's fun. You get to learn and absorb a lot of things from different people. So that's kind of cool. Most of my friends are from different countries, so I really learned how to be accepting, respectful, and I don't necessarily have to agree with them, but I can just accept what they're saying. And at the end of the day, I'm always just trying to be curious, because it's really fun learning about other people's culture and backgrounds. And of course, the most important thing is to have an open mind. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
Let's proceed now to the different varieties of English. And the question is, how does Philippine English differ from American and British English? Let's take a look.
In my opinion, the difference among Filipino English, British, and American English is pronouncing.
They differ from pronunciations and date notations.
Philippine English differ in accent and manner of speech from American and British English. Maybe it is because of the native language of the Philippines that makes the accent different, and the culture that makes the manner of speech different.
They differ from pronunciation, vocabularies, and even for the use of idioms.
Philippine English differ by its accent and voicing, for it is influenced by its native language.
Vocabulary. English words have a lot of differences, but with the same meaning.
Philippine English is different because we use words and sentences that means something else to a native English speaker.
We have our own accent, and with our choice of words in which we severely differ from them.
Philippine English is a result of modifications in grammar, vocabulary, and enunciation of native speakers.
It differs in terms of its accent, formality, fluency, and clarity caused by its varied native language.
Of pronunciation made it different from other accents.
In the Philippines, finished eating can mean an entirely different thing thanks to our distinctive hard accent.
It differs through the construction of sentences, usage of phrases, and fusion of language present in the Philippines like Tagalog.
They differ in formality, and some words are different in the American and British vocabulary.
They both differ greatly in pronunciation and use of words.
British and American English is acquired, Filipino English is learned.
The difference among the three is their unique pronunciation.
Filipinos are not native speakers of English. They tend to differ in pronunciation and articulation.
They differ in accent, spelling, and also grammar.
It differs on how they pronounce their words and sentences.
Philippine English is different in a way that code switching or Taglish, Tagalog-infused English, happens to be very usual in every Filipino conversation.
It's very difficult because English is not our dialect and some Filipinos struggle to speak English.
American and British accents sound so different because of their use of their slang terms, while Philippine differ from their pronunciation and enunciation.
Philippine English differs from American and British English by its pronunciation and vocabulary.
The accent and the delivery, since we tend to mix it with our own native dialect.
It differs from culture, beliefs, and how they speak.
American and British English differ in grammar, spelling, pronunciation, and lexis. In the Philippines, we follow the American English. Let's begin with grammatical differences. In American English, it's have. In British English, it's have got. In American English, do you have the time? In British English, have you got the time? I don't, and then I haven't. In conjugation, American English prefers ed. In British English, t. Example, burn, burnt, burn, burn, burnt, burnt. Same with dream, like dream, dreamed, dreamed, dream, dreamt, dreamt. In terms of tenses, American English prefers simple past. British English prefers present perfect. For example, I just ate versus I've just eaten. Will or won't versus shall or shan't. Next, noun phrases. In American English, it begins with the proper noun and then the common noun. For example, Hudson River. In British English, it's different because it begins with the common noun and then the proper noun. Example, River Thames. Another thing here is a half hour versus half an hour. Next is the use of article. In American English, the articles the, a, and an are usually inserted before a noun. For example, in the future, in the hospital. It's different in British English because they usually omit the articles, like in future, in hospital. Next is collective nouns. American English prefers singular in collective nouns. In British English, it's plural. Example, the government is versus the government are. Going strict grammar pertaining to subject-verb agreement, it depends on how the collective noun is used. Another thing is clausal patterns, such as in American English, come, take a look, versus British English, come and take a look. Another thing, American English, I asked that he go. British English, I asked him to go. Another thing is were versus was. American English prefers were, like I wish you were here. In British English, it prefers was, like I wish she was here. Another thing here is adverbials and prepositions. For instance, I'll go momentarily versus in a moment. Real good, really good. Backward, backwards. It's 20:04 pertaining to 4:20 versus it's 20 to 4 pertaining to 3:40. It's in the back of the building versus it's behind the building. The second difference is spelling. For instance, ER versus RE, like center, center. O versus OU, like color, color. I versus Y, like tire, tire. O versus U, like mom, mommy, mom, mommy. U versus IU, like aluminum, aluminium. YZE versus YSE, like analyze, analyze. IZE versus ISE, apologize, apologize. Single L versus double L, like traveling, traveling. SE versus CE, like defense, defense. With or without UE, like analog, analog. Another thing, double L versus single L, enrollment, enrollment. Single M versus MME, for instance, program, program. Take note, we don't use the program with MME because this spelling is British. And the last one is the spelling of acknowledgement without E and with E, like acknowledgement, acknowledgement. Next, pronunciation differences. For instance, British English a versus American English a. British English dawns, chance. American English dance, chance. Another thing, British a versus American a. For instance, in British English it's data. In American English it's data. British English ch versus American English t. For instance, in British English it's tune, student. In American English it's tune, student. Another thing, British English d versus American English j. For instance, in British English it's duty. In American English it's Judy. In British English, their pronunciation of vowels are usually prolonged. In American English, it's short. For instance, in British English, bird, floor. In American English, it's bird, floor. So notice the difference. And the last one here is lexical differences. For instance, in American English, they use Ivy League for the best schools, such as Harvard University, University of Pennsylvania. In British English, they name the best schools as A-levels. There's also this difference in terms of the use of revenue sharing versus VAT. Next, checking account versus current account. Station wagon versus estate car. Drugstore, chemists. Flyover, fly pass. Let's try to answer the following items. In American English, it's fries. In British English, it's chips. Potato chips in American English is crisps in British English. Gasoline, petrol. Expressway, motorway. First floor, ground floor. Subway, underground. Let's have the other way around. British English to American English. Holiday, vacation. Race course, racetrack. Driving license, driver's license. Prawn cocktail, shrimp cocktail. Waistcoat, vest. Let's proceed to the last topic, and that is gestures of English. And the question is, given that social setting, situation, speaker, addressee, and topic affect communication, Why do we communicate differently in front of our professors, parents, siblings, friends, and strangers? Let's take a look.
It's because of what we call convergence and divergence way of talking.
Simply because we tend to change the way we approach based on the relations to the person who's talking.
We communicate differently to different people to make an appropriate communication with them. We have to match our attitude in communication to who we are communicating to.
We all have different comfortability. We always consider how comfortable we are to the person we are talking to.
We communicate differently by the level of closeness and respect we have for someone.
Because of communication barrier, we communicate formally or casually depending on the receiver.
This is to show courtesy and respect in a different social setting.
We know that the audience has changed and that we should accommodate our way of communicating to them.
It varies because of our language register that considers the appropriateness, the audience, and the setting.
The hierarchical barrier caused us to filter words based on the inferiority or superiority of the person we're conversing with.
It depends on the level of comfort of the people that we are talking to every day.
Since comfort varies from person to person, so does the level of etiquette we show.
Because we possess different level of intimacy or relationship between all of them.
It is because each person holds a different amount of respect from the other person.
It is already fossilized in the minds of human beings that our way of communicating to people depends on what their position is and their relation to us.
Because we have to establish different personalities for different people.
Because we show the right amount of respect to the different people we talk to.
The more we spend time and talk to them results to familiarity and comfortability.
Because of different cultures, relationship, and standing in this society.
Because it depends on how we feel at ease while we speak to them.
We communicate differently because we are considering what kind of audience we are engaging to and what tone and language should we use effectively.
Maybe there are insecurities that we are afraid to open up, and especially to whom we are communicating.
We are learning more about our identity as we grow older. This is why we have less confusion when communicating to others. We tend to act based on our role identity in the communication or in the society.
We communicate differently based on formality to avoid any disrespectful comments and to decrease our social differences.
We tend to observe professionalism towards our supervisors while we are informal to those people we are comfortable.
We communicate differently to show respect to whoever we talk to.
And the answer to the question is because we need to adjust depending on relevant variables such as social setting, situation, speaker, addressing, and topic. Let's begin with the first type, which is frozen. Frozen refers to printed and changing language, formal, almost scripted phrases that do not vary. For instance, the Bible, the Lord's Prayer, the Pledge of Allegiance, laws, preamble to the U.S. Constitution, including the preamble to the Philippine Constitution. Next is formal language. Formal is used in one-way communication and there are no interruptions. It's generally used in formal settings and it follows a commonly accepted format. At the same time, it is used to show respect. For instance, introductions between strangers, rhetorical statements and questions, speeches, pronouncements made by judges, announcements, standard for work, school, public offices, and business settings. Next is consolative. Consolative refers to two-way participation and it's generally used in professional setting. For instance, doctor-patient, lawyer-client, lawyer-judge, teacher-student, superior-subordinate, and colleagues. Next is casual. Casual uses a very informal language and slang terms are common. It also uses a group language. If we say a group language, that refers to lexical terms or phrases used exclusively in your circle. At the same time, context and nonverbal communication are important. For instance, friends and acquaintances, family, teammates, including chats and blogs. And the last one is intimate, and it is used in private conversations. For instance, husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, twins, siblings, including pets. Let's have greetings in different registers. For instance, in Frozen, I want to welcome you to the Closer Connections Conference, sponsored in part by Dakota Tessel and Estelle. In formal, it's good morning. I'll let Dr. Jones know you're here. In consolative, it's Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you doing this morning? Casual, hey Jack, what's up? Intimate, how's my little puppy today? By the way, take note that there's a comma before the name. Like for example, hello, comma, Mr. Smith. And hey, comma, Jack. Like that. Another thing is requests in different registers. Frozen, please submit the information at your earliest convenience. Formal, could you possibly type this up for me by tomorrow? Consolative, can you finish this after lunch, Alex? Casual, watch the door for me, okay? Intimate, hey darling, pour me a cocktail. Let's have encouragement in different registers. Frozen, as you commence this endeavor, I offer you all my prayers and support. Formal, thank you for applying for this position. We will let you know in a week if you have been chosen for an interview. Consolative, thanks for showing up on the Jones account. Great job. Casual, whoa, way to go, nice catch. Intimate, you are so sweet. I'm crazy about you, honey. Partings in different registers. Frozen, farewell and Godspeed. Formal, goodbye. We look forward to seeing you again. Take note the spelling of goodbye is good-bye. Consolative, goodbye. Have a good weekend. Casual, bye now. Take care. Intimate, later, darling. Always remember, we have to preserve our social and cultural identities because these two are trademarks as Filipinos. For instance, if you speak with a Philippine English accent, that's acceptable because Philippine English is one of the varieties of English around the world. If you got questions regarding this lesson or you get queries of any concern, drop an email at f.rene.bonifacio@cmu.edu.ph. I'll attend to your queries as fast as I can. And as always, God bless and stay healthy.